Hi, it's Penny here, and today we're going to be putting together my TBR for June. So all the books I'm planning to read in June. As usual, I'm using my TBR Machine website that I made that spits out random reading prompts, and I'll link that down below if you want to try it out. I have already picked the prompts for June just because I'm doing very well at TBR 0 actually. And so I've got very few books to choose from, and sometimes we need a little bit of preparation time. So I will also be picking the prompts for July after this as well. But let's talk about the June prompts. Our first prompt was to pick a book that matches the current season. Now at the moment in New Zealand it's autumn, but it's coming up to winter. And the book that I've chosen for this is Ruth Rendell Collected Stories. I don't really know much about this. My auntie was throwing out a bunch of books and my cousin sent me some photos and let me pick some. I picked this just because I've heard of Ruth Rendell before and I thought maybe it would be a good opportunity to branch out into a different genre. I think it's like a bunch of crime mystery short stories. Now, I don't often have a lot of luck with short story anthologies, so that's probably not a good sign, but we're going to try it. I think often what I try to do with short stories is like read a story every day. I think that approach, even though it makes sense in my head, doesn't ever seem to work in real life. So what I'm going to just try and do is read them all and maybe I'll be able to get into it. That's what I always struggle with short story anthologies, is that because every time you get into it, it's a new story. However, there are some short story anthologies I've enjoyed in the past, and most of those have been ones by a single author. So there is hope that I will like this. Then the next prompt was to read your most recent book purchase. I actually had forgotten. I've been keeping books that I buy separate because I want to focus on reading the books that I've owned for longer than this year, and then any new ones, if I hadn't finished them at the end of the year, I could still kind of claim TBR 0 retrospectively, if you know what I mean. And like any new books I've obtained become part of the TBR 0 challenge for next year. Is it cheating? Yes. But it's possible I'll still read those books. I'm just like deprioritizing them compared to these ones. However, this prompt isn't really fitting with that deprioritization idea, but still, at least this one's not too big. So recently I went to a secondhand bookshop and they were doing, it says $1. They were actually doing a special where it was 50 cents for a book. So I got After Dark by Haruki Murakami. I've read two things by Haruki Murakami before. I've read Kafka on the Shore and The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. I loved The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, but I didn't really enjoy Kafka on the Shore. There were some parts of it that I liked and other parts that I absolutely hated. So I'm giving Haruki Murakami another shot with a short one, and we'll see whether this makes me lean towards thinking I don't like his work or whether it makes me lean towards thinking maybe I would like to read more. We'll see how it goes. I don't honestly know anything about this, but it does look like there'll be more weird dream stuff and more weird sex stuff. So the weird dream stuff is on the side of like, oh, I might like that. The weird sex stuff is on the side of, not sure. So we'll see how we go. Then the next prompt was to read the book that's been on your TBR for the longest. And I'm going to go with The Gathering Storm by Kate Elliott. Now, okay, this was on my May TBR for the prompt to read the longest book on your TBR. But I think you can tell that I haven't made very much progress. I'm only up to here, like 20 pages in, I think. And this is like 1,000 pages or something. Maybe it's only 900 pages, but they're chunky pages. So maybe it's cheating to use this for 2 prompts. But actually, I feel like this is big enough for 4 prompts. So like, I don't feel like it's cheating. And I am filming this TBR slightly early, but like, there's just no way I'm going to finish this in May. So we may as well hold on to it for June. And maybe this will be the month that I get to it. Maybe. But I'm not sure because I do also have some other books from the library. But before I get into talking about the library books, let's pick our prompts for July. Okay, so the first prompt is going to be read a book that it seems like everyone has read but you. Honestly, I don't think I have any books on my TBR shelf like that anymore, so I might have to fill this with an audiobook of some type. But I guess this is a good time to ask for suggestions. What's a really hyped book that you don't think I've read that you think I might like? Because I feel like most of the ones that I'm really excited about, I've already made plans to read them. There must be some. I'll think of some. Give me some suggestions. All right, let's pick another prompt. The second prompt is going to be, oh no, read a historical fiction. I put this prompt on here because I do want to like challenge myself to read more genres. But is there anything on my shelves like that? I guess debatably I could read another book in the Seven Waters series, because this is set in historical times, I think, even though it's fantasy. But also, I only have the fourth book, so I really need to track down the second book somehow. Part of me wants to go and hang out at secondhand shops to see if I can find it, but also another part of me is really scared to go to secondhand shops at the moment because I'm trying to get to TBR 0 and finding cheap books is not particularly helpful to that. I'll have a think about it. This is why I started picking my prompts early. Okay, then the final prompt for July is going to be read the highest rated book on your TBR. Okay, so this I will use Goodreads to determine, but let me make a guess. I think I want it to be The Relentless Moon. I've been meaning to pick this up for a while. I want to read this. It's also the third book in a series, so anyone who gets to this book in the series should have rated it highly. And honestly, the rest of the books on my TBR are kind of obscure, so I have no idea what kind of rating they might have. Okay, now let's talk about library books. I actually have quite a few physical library books this time. Normally, I mostly do my library books audiobook style, but some of my holds are starting to come through. It's a little bit dangerous. Firstly, I've got An Every Generation by Kendare Blake. This is not great with the ring light because it's super shiny. But this is like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer spin-off. I think it's not technically canon because it follows Willow's daughter, who is both a witch and a slayer. And I'm not really sure with how it's going to fit with what happened at the end of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer in terms of the future of slayers. But it's been a little while since I consumed something Buffy related, and I really enjoyed the Three Dark Crowns series by Kendare Blake, so I thought I might like this one. Then, okay, the rest of the physical library books that I have, I don't actually have them yet. I have holds on them, but I decided this time to look at my hold list and like predict which ones might come through rather than just having them come through in the middle of the month and disrupting my whole TBR. I'm trying to be smart. So the most likely to come through are the Babysitter's Club graphic novel adaptations. So the Babysitter's Club was one of my favorite series as a kid, following this group of babysitters as they learn about life. It's like a middle grade series, and they've recently been adapting them to graphic novels. The most recent ones to come out are Christy and the Snobs and Goodbye Stacey Goodbye. And I'm confident these will be really quick, really fun, nostalgic reads. So good to have on the pile. Shouldn't cause too many problems in terms of this pile getting too big. Ones that will cause problems though is I'll also be getting Fevered Star by Rebecca Roanhorse. So this just came out recently. It's the sequel to Black Sun in the Between Earth and Sky series, which is inspired by pre-Columbian mythology, and we've kind of got a bunch of characters coming together for this celestial prophecy. I really enjoyed the first book, so I'm excited to continue the series. Not too long after it's come out. Then as well, I have a hold on Seasonal Fairs by Sean Maguire, which is the sequel to Middle Game. The series is all about these younger people who are being manipulated to become gods through alchemy, and I believe Seasonal Fairs is about this couple that has the power of the seasons. I'm not actually sure whether this one is going to arrive. I can see that my library ordered copies back in January. The book came out officially, I think, at the start of May. So one would hope that they would get it in time for me to read it sometime in June. But I have seen sometimes the library has ordered books and it takes quite a long time for them to come through. So I'm not sure, but I thought I'd put it on the list so that at least I can pick it up if it comes through near the end of the month. I also have a hold on Confessions by Kane Minato. This is the May book for the Literally Dead book club, so I'm getting it a bit late. I put a hold on it as soon as the announcement was made, but I'm still late. I had already had this on my Goodreads to read list, and I can't remember the whole synopsis, but it sounded quite dark. It's something about a teacher whose daughter had killed herself, and then on her last day, she kind of pulls the class together and says, "I know what you did," or something along those lines. Anyway, I have heard good reviews about it, so I'm interested to read that. And I think it's not too long. So again, shouldn't make this pile too big. But if we get Fevered Star and Seasonal Fairs on here, as well as that, this could be a little bit worrying. But also, it's June, it's going to be winter. We probably won't really be going anywhere. It's the perfect month for staying in bed and reading, so maybe we'll be okay. So that's all my physical library books, but I do also have a few audiobooks that I want to read from the library. Firstly, I've got The Atlas 6 by, I think it's Olivia Blake. This is a book super hyped around the internet at the moment. Something about 6 people that get to go to this magic school, but only 5 of them are going to get to go on to the next level. So while they're forming friendships, they're also battling against each other. I honestly don't know if this is one that I'm going to like, but this would have fit really well for the prompt to read a book that you feel like everyone's read but you. But that's the wrong month. Also though, I have really enjoyed some dark academia, and I'm hoping that this will actually be dark enough and weird enough and not just like teen shenanigans. So we'll see how we go. I'm hopeful but concerned. As well, I'm going to try and do some more work on Series 0, my other main reading goal. So I've got another book from the Wheel of Time, the 6th book, Lord of Chaos. I don't really know what's going to be happening in this one, but hopefully some interesting stuff with the circular time and the dreams. That's what I want from this series. We keep getting all this nonsense with everyone being in love with Rand and people just mucking around traveling from one place to another all the time. But I do find always the very end of the book does something exciting, even though most of the book is just blah, 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 blah. So I'll continue the series and we'll see how we go. Also, I'm going to continue the Harry Dresden series and pick up book number 9. I've got book number 8 on my May TBI. I haven't quite read it yet, but I'm confident I'm going to get to it. And if I don't, I'll read 8 and 9 in June. Book number 7 was one that I really enjoyed, so I'm hoping that I will like this one. I have noticed that my library doesn't actually have the audiobook for the whole series, so I'm a little bit concerned what's going to happen once I finish all the ones that my library has. Hopefully the series will have made me in love with it by then, or otherwise we might not be continuing. Again, we'll have to see what happens with that one. Oh, so if you don't know about this series, the Dresden Files follows Harry Dresden, who's a wizard and also a private investigator. He's always getting himself in trouble with all the different paranormal elements of his town. The Wizard Council doesn't really like him. There's a war between the vampires that maybe he was involved in, and the Fae, the fairies, are always trying to take advantage of him as well. So he's always in a difficult position. He always makes it worse by the way that he treats women. I don't really like him as a person, but the last book was interesting, so fingers crossed. As well, I'm going to read the last book from the first trilogy of the Hidden Legacy series by Ilona Andrews. So Wildfire is the last book of Nevada's trilogy. This is following a family, again, of private investigators in this paranormal world. In this one, magic is kind of genetic and there's different families that have a lot of power. We're following one family that is just struggling to stay alive, but they are learning about their own powers as well as getting involved in some of these other magical families, potentially in a romantic way, but it's a slow burn kind of romance, so it's gonna take a little while. Again, I've got the second book on my May TBR. I haven't quite read it, but I'm expecting to enjoy it because I love Ilona Andrews' writing, and so this is another series where I'm just going to continue. Pretty sure my library has all of these ones, so thank goodness. And then lastly, I'm also going to try and pick up some more books from the Skullduggery Pleasant series by Derek Landy. I think I've read so far the first 3 books. I'm probably going to get to the 4th book this weekend. So maybe in June I'll try and read the 5th and 6th books. I might actually, depending how we're going with time, just try and read as many as I can possibly get through at some point. Because this is a long series, but also most of the books are pretty short. Like audiobooks that are under 10 hours. So at double speed, it's like only a couple of days to get through them. Or maybe even one day if you listen to it while you're doing something else. So I'm going to try and get through as many as I can because I think that will make me feel better about the fact that I added this series on after I made the goal of Series 0. And it's got so many books in the series. I think like 15 or something. Anyway, this is a book series about a young girl getting involved in the magical world. Her mentor is Skullduggery Pleasant, who is this skeleton but also a detective. It's kind of the theme of these paranormal stories where the characters are detectives or private investigators. I think it just makes for good stories doing these paranormal investigations. Maybe I should become a paranormal investigator. I wish our world was one where that was an actual career. I mean, it is, but like not the same as it is in books. Anyway, that is going to be all the books I'm reading. So I think it's about 6 audiobooks, and then all of these books plus another 4. Honestly, that doesn't seem doable, but I'm going to try anyway, just for fun. I don't really know what's happening in June, so maybe it'll be doable. Anyway, let me know if you've read any of these books, whether you think I'm going to like them, or if you've got any recommendations for my July prompts. And of course, check back in at the end of the month when I've read all of these, and I'll share my thoughts about them with you, and we'll see how well I actually did at reading them all. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.